then they should know how performance will be measured. How will we know that we are actually doing well, or how will we know that we are not doing well? So in terms of training, this process actually starts by a needs assessment. So these are things that I think we talk about, but when it comes to actual implementation, sometimes it's a bit hard to go through the entire process. So I have here what it takes to do a complete training needs analysis. But in terms of implementation, I myself, I have gone through training processes where you have been given the topic, you have been told to, as a training delivery person, I'm talking from the end of those who deliver training. So an institution says, well, we need training on this and this and this. We are going to train on Monday, or we will train next month. So please prepare content for this particular training. So to begin with, you still don't know. What do these people know? What don't they know? What is the purpose of this training? Because you give training to so many people. The reason why you are giving it will define the content. So by you knowing why it is being given, then you can tailor the content in different ways. So the training needs analysis is a key component, even if this is a really short, the time is given and is short, you still need to know who is coming for the training. What do they do? What do they do? What are their roles? What do they know? What do they want to know for you to then define the content and tailor the content to their own needs? So otherwise, when you're, if you don't know that information, then as somebody who is giving the training, it's very hard. You then give a generic training that may not be tailored to these people's specific problems. So the training needs analysis, no matter how short, no matter how short the time, you can improvise different means of doing this training needs analysis, so that when you're doing the content or when you're delivering, then that content speaks to whoever is going to receive it. So it is a key component of defining the metrics. Once you gather the data around the needs of who is going to be trained or who is going through this coaching, you actually look at, determine these needs vis-a-vis the actual purpose of the training, then propose different solutions. So you find that training coaching is just part of the solution. It's not the complete solution. So it then helps to tailor the process comprehensively. So you know they will need training, but when they go back to the organizations, they will need supervisory support in ABCD. They will need certain resources to actually apply this knowledge. And so it becomes a comprehensive solution to meet that initial purpose. We will also look at potential costs involved in delivering all these solutions. But you find that if the training needs is not sufficient, then you're looking at, then you cannot propose sufficient solutions. And when you now come into the costs, you're now funding activities that you're not very sure whether it will actually deal with the initial purpose of the training. So from there, we can choose now how to implement this training and how to eventually evaluate the effectiveness of the whole training program or development program. So to begin, to look at the metrics, to actually create sufficient metrics, you need to do the training needs analysis. Okay, so another exercise now I hope this time we'll be more responsive and try this out. So in terms of your own context, in your own organization, when you look at how different institutions within your own, I think what you'd call similar organizations or competitions, when they're running their own trainings and their own activities, what do they do? Let's start that with, what do you think they are doing better, or what would you learn from them? So 2 answers. What do you think they do well? And what do you think you can improve on? Let's see those in the chat box. Ezra, will you help read them out as they come in?
Let me check the chat box.
So I will help you out in the process. They will do different things well. For instance, in terms of the overall company strategy, and what we mean is the focus. Different institutions, organizations first begin by that strategic document, that strategic objectives, that within these 5 years, we are going to focus on these particular issues. We are going to look at growth in this sense. We will work on our customer satisfaction. We will look at improving skills of our staff in these areas. So companies set out their strategic objectives within a period of time. So from there, as training department and human resource department, you're then aligning your own strategies and initiatives to those particular objectives. So from there, we develop our own training strategy in line with the overall objective. So if we are looking at customer satisfactions, we then do that training needs analysis and say, in terms of customer satisfaction, as the training department, how can we contribute to this? So then you say, okay, we first do the training needs analysis and look what is the level of knowledge, skills, abilities, and we segregate them into those 3 key areas. You're looking at knowledge, you're looking at level of skills, and you're looking at different abilities. So what can we do within our own strategies to enhance that customer satisfaction? So it will be training and many other initiatives, not just training. So from there, we do the training strategy. From this training strategy, we can now create activities, and activities are now smaller. We are looking at short courses through the phone. We are looking at online programs. We are looking at some people attending face-to-face programs. We are looking at internal organization learning processes between different departments or different staff. We are looking at mentorships in these activities. And from there now, we can develop, okay, how will we know that our activities are actually being effective? How do we measure this? So then from there, we can now begin to look at the metrics. What will tell us that these activities are actually effective? So what normally happens is we are saying that, okay, for instance, our course today, 43 people, I can see 43 people have attended, and we say this is very successful. Hello? I mean, one of the metrics we can use is attendance. And we say, because 43 people attended our session, we look at maybe in total we have 60 members. If 43 attend, then we say, okay, this was successful, but it is successful in terms of attendance. How will we know that this has actually given them utility? So it means apart from just attendance, we need to create another metrics that shows us that people will actually apply this thing. And if we create that metrics, it is beyond the counting the number of people who have attended. So we want to now count of those who attended, how many have actually applied this back at work. And so that is another level of accountability. So it means somebody has to apply this. Somebody has to follow up and find out who is actually applying this. So we are putting a second level of accountability. The third level of accountability, we will want to know, okay, if they are able to apply it, what has changed? What has changed as they are applying this? So that is a third level of accountability in terms of creating the metrics. So any answers from the chat box? Ezra. Our people are so quiet. Let me call names now.
Yeah, keenly listening. From the chat box here, I can see how many people have said yes. 1, 2.
What do you think companies within your own sector, what are they doing well when it comes to measuring the effectiveness of their trainings? What are they doing well, or what do you think you can improve on?
Can they definitely just respond to the question on the chat box?
Yes, please.
All right. Kindly just send your answer to the chat box so that we can be able to see.
Or if somebody wants to speak, this is also a good moment.
Probably to kill the lull, you can also be able to just talk.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to share my contribution on the impacts of training. One of the ways in which you can identify whether there's an improvement or not, or what you can learn from a certain organization or your own, is by checking on the improvement on the efficiency level of the staff in terms of workmanship. You can see also staff productivity. Positive staff productivity can also go up. And you can also see the staff morale also going up. So if at all, like if you say efficiency, you can talk about maybe in the, like me, I work in the technical aspect in the water sector. When workmanship was poor and after training, there's an improvement in how they do things, then you realize that the training was effective. So there are several ways you can look at it.
Yeah, that's a good one. Somebody else? Yes, I think I'll pick who? Yes, I can see Millicent. Millicent's hand is up. Or is that a previous hand? Millicent, you can go ahead.
Millicent, go on. Millie, go on and share with us. As we wait for Millie, can see a response from Abdul Karim. Yes. And he's saying that what the organization is doing well, wanting and needs improvement. So I wish he could be able to clarify further so that we understand him, but that is what he says.
Yes, Karim, would you please expound on your answer?
Abdul Karim, can you expound so that it becomes a little bit clear for us? Probably we can move on as we wait. If he's ready, he will be able to kind of share with us at the appropriate time.
Yeah, so I'll pick up from the previous speaker was who spoke, who gave us the example?
There was Lisa Molo gave an example for the water sector.
Yes.
Yeah.
The example
Christine has a hand up. Can we also give Christine an opportunity to say something?
Yes, please.
Chris, unmute and say.
Yes, thank you very much. What we notice is that there is receptiveness in doing collective responsibilities. Then the speed of doing things increases, the speed of undertaking tasks, because they are aware of what to do and how to do it. And then they have innovative ways of implementing different tasks.
That is, yeah, those are good ones. And I think there are differences between what Elizabeth said and what Christine is now saying. Elizabeth was talking about effectiveness. She was talking about increase in productivity. And those are broad, they are really broad metrics. And we need those too, because we are looking at effectiveness in her, in different staff operations and their productivity. But Christine is now looking at individual skill levels. So you see we have metrics at two different levels. At the department level, how are they more effective? How are they more productive? But at individual level, we are also now having metrics. How will we tell that this person is now doing a better job than they were doing before? So, so I think in terms of creating value and accountability, we must be very good in setting the metrics. And you now see the metrics are not cast on stone. We don't have like specific metrics. You have to know the job for you to develop those metrics. But then they also come at different level. We are looking at once everybody has applied the skill, we said, at the department level or at the institution level, what has improved. But then once everybody has actually gone through these trainings, how do their skills change? So we are setting metrics for individuals, but we are also setting metrics at the organization level. And once we have well-defined metrics, then we can now talk about accountability, because you know how you want to measure this. Those who are attending trainings also know how they are going to be measured. And this, I think this is inherent in every education programs. In KCP, you know how you're going to be measured, you know the subjects you're going to take, you know the topics that are going to come, you know what A means, you know what B means, you even know what D means, and you feel it in the core. If you get A, you know how it feels like. So in terms of developing our own training programs, we also set metrics at different levels. That way, then you are in building accountability and value in these trainings. And when we talked of value, we said value is at the organization level, but value is also at staff level. Why should they attend these trainings? What is in it for them? So they will see the value if there is something in it for them. And this would be, yes, if this is going to make my work easier, then I'll find the training more valuable. If I'm going to improve my skill level for better opportunities and maybe more career growth, then I'll see this as important. But sometimes, because you're doing this training for purposes of meeting organization strategy, linking the the value for the organization with individual level values sometimes becomes difficult, because if you're doing a compliance course, people are, and you're asking them, okay, you must do this online course by next week. It is 90 minutes. And with all my other activities, I'll be asking myself, why should I do this? Why is this important for me? Why should I be compliant? So I'm asking, what is the value of this training for myself? So the other elephant in the room is about data and analytics. When it comes to measuring training, data has become a big thing. I think in every sector, every aspect, we are now looking at data, and we are looking at analyzing this data, and we are looking at how does this data then help improve our own processes? How does data improve our training content? How does it improve how we deliver trainings? How does this improve at organization level? Do we use this data? And for us in training, we start with that form that we fill at the end of training. The form we give learners and all those who have attended, please fill this form for me. Once we fill it, what happens to that data? How do you use it? Do we even analyze it sometimes? And what happens is that maybe you attended a training in Botswana, and and they gave these papers there in Botswana, and you are back at the institution level. So was this analyzed? Did you actually get it? Because training delivery has multiple agents working in independent institutions. So people who attend training are from various institutions. They go back to their work. Those who deliver trainings are also very independent institutions. So how is this data shared across these institutions so that it can inform the processes? So the other aspects when it comes to accountability and value is managing expectations, internal expectations, but also external expectations. So we look at what are these expectations? Examples of learner expectations. Some people expect that when I go for this training, it will actually be relevant to my own roles and my own responsibilities. That's my expectations when I'm coming. As trainers, I'm also, for instance, as I sit here right now, one of my expectations is that whatever I am talking about is actually applicable. Can you actually apply this? The other expectation I have is, yes, is there any new knowledge that is given? So trainers have their own expectations. Learners have their own expectations. Some expectation for learners is around time. How long does it take? Because people have, at adult level, people have other responsibilities. So time is a big component when it comes to expectations, and many other agents involved in the training and human resource development. I know we are talking of training now, but there's also mentorship. When people are doing mentorship, your expectations with your mentor is they will add value to your own. The mentor you are assigned to will actually add value to your own process. The mentors also have expectations that the mentees they are working with are actually serious, first of all, in the mentorship process, that they will take the decisions they are given seriously. So for us to set specific matrices, we have to know what these expectations is, and then also ask ourselves, how do we manage these expectations? To begin with, some of this is not exhaustive in itself, but this is how you begin to manage expectations. The first one is, we've talked about this, having a clear purpose of what the training is about and what the Human Resource Development Initiative is about, defining clearly what this coaching process is about, what the mentorship is about. Have that purpose. So when you define the purpose and then communicate the purpose, let people know what this is about. And be deliberate about it, I think. Sometimes how we do it is you send the agenda about the training, and people look through it, but maybe do more than just sending documents, so that people know exactly what the purpose of the training is and why you are doing this. As a department, as a training management department, know your limitations in terms of delivering the service. As a department, what are our limitations? What can we do and what are we not going to do? Training providers, the same, know your limitations, because when people attend these things, they attend them with expectations, but then you define your limitations and people know that this is what we can offer, this is what we are going to do, and this we cannot do. And so define those limitations. And then the other important thing is feedback loops. And when we talk about a feedback loop, we are looking at the training department with the staff with their own supervisory managers and supervisory level, training department with the training providers with the trainees they have already trained, even though they are going in different institutions. What kind of communication and feedback loops do they have? So you find that sometimes people are training in multiple areas and multiple institutions, but when they come back to the institution, that will be the end of the communication or the end of the feedback. Why? Because of the budget. We don't have budget for following up staff, but it is a key component in actually measuring the effectiveness of trainings, because application actually happens back in the institutions. So if we cannot follow up that feedback loop and we cannot budget for it, then it will be hard to institute this in our measurement process. Okay, the last aspect is looking at HR data and the analytics. So what are the challenges in this, in looking at HR data and analytics? The first challenge is investments in the data analytics systems and technologies that require measuring people's behaviors, application of knowledge, awareness, investments in that system that will actually help you analyze the data that you're looking for. So increasingly, though, we have had improvements. For instance, those attending online trainings, it's much easier now to go through a course and input through the course certain measurement aspects, or maybe you give them tests, you ask them questions, and you can see the progress people are making in different courses. You can see who has actually logged in, who has not logged in, who has gone through certain modules and those who have not gone in through certain modules. Some of the questions they're asking, you can see it online and the system can actually help you analyze this data and know what progress people are making. What is missing though is from the course, the applicability of this knowledge, how the next level of measuring how they apply this knowledge back in the organizations and the institutions. How do we collect this data? What systems do we have in place to manage this, this data? The other level is the results. Quality of the data, reliability of this data, keeping this data about people and the information. So that is another level of challenge in terms of keeping HR metrics and data. And why is this reliability? Let's look at reliability, for example. Reliability in, so somebody may improve. We talked about productivity. Your productivity may improve today. And then another 2 months down the line, when we check the level of productivity, this has reduced. So now we are asking, is it that this, when the person attended the training, they did well and the productivity improved, but 2 months down the line, this has gone down? Does it mean the level of knowledge reduced? What happened? So attributing training and knowledge transfer to people's performance is quite a challenge. Why? Because many other aspects surround people's productivity and people's level of applying this knowledge. Sometimes the motivation, they go through a motivation course and you come back charged and very ready to apply your knowledge, but then the systems that you're going to work in are not enabling your level of motivation. So that goes down. So will we blame the training or not? So reliability around HR data is still a challenge because we have to measure the data around HR in trainings, but then we also have to look at the environment in which we have to monitor the environment in which they are working in. So this is what we call complex because there are many other variables involved in this data. So in terms of where do we start? Where do we start? We start by having cross-functional relationship, improve feedback and communication between all your training providers and your department as a training department. That communication in terms of training needs analysis, the purpose of the trainings you're preparing and planning for, increased information with those who are going to provide this training. How will we measure effectiveness of this training? Communication around what your expectations are in measuring the effectiveness of training. So sometimes this is a forethought and you're doing evaluation after you have finished the training. That's when you're asking, okay, how do we measure this again? But then evaluation should be thoughtful when you're actually planning. Then budget for it, budget for data collection. If you have set your metrics and key performance metrics, budget for collecting that information. If you need some systems and technology to help you analyze that data, budget for it. Look at means within your budget, because most often the sophistication of analytics depend on your capacity and the budget that you can. There are very many ways of doing it, but budget for analyzing the information, improve communication between training departments, training providers, supervisors of this staff, so that the environment for applying this knowledge is actually there measurement of whether this is being applied is also there. And then, yes, there's the level of upskilling yourself in setting metrics, analyzing HR data, and actually reporting it in a way that people get value from the data. So some of the challenges in in measuring training and development effectiveness. The one we have talked about is most often you're not sure of what exactly to measure. How do you measure this? What are we looking for? So we have looked at different levels of application. We're looking at, first of all, individual level, setting metrics around individual performance. We are looking at the training department itself. How effective have you been in instituting all these activities, training and development activities? We are looking at organization strategic objectives. How do we link our own performance to the organization strategic objectives and their own key performance indicators? How has our training actually contributed to improvements? And why this is a bit challenging is because of the subjective nature of what we are measuring. The other one is data spread across different systems, where the staff are coming from, different institutions, where the training is actually happening, and those who are providing these training systems, whether it is online systems, somebody else collects this data, or they attend trainings in different other institutions. What is the communication between the different institutions where this data rests? How do we collect this data? Sometimes we are doing this manually, and when we're doing this manually, then analyzing it actually becomes difficult. Sometimes we forget to budget for the data collection process, analyzing this data and presenting it in a report that people can actually use. So that is another challenge. The other challenge we have is at the staff level. Sometimes people don't give honest feedback. Was the training effective? Yes. Can you apply this training? Yes. Do you think this is this is applicable in your workplace? Maybe. So sometimes people hesitate to give you feedback, and sometimes we are asking it late. For instance, those forms which we give after the training, I know we always give them sometimes when the training is over. It is a Friday, people are leaving, and everyone just wants to leave. Nobody wants to see the form again. So they are not very honest in giving that feedback. So I think is to look at, okay, what other methods apart from this form, how else can we collect this information in terms of utility of the trainings and development programs that we have? So then I give a summary of what we have talked about. The first one is remember the training needs analysis. Consider it, budget for it. No matter how short it is, do some training needs analysis. All your providers, allow them to do some training needs analysis so that the training is targeted to some of the needs that you are expecting. So this is the beginning of minimizing expectations when the training needs analysis is done sufficiently. Then the second one is develop a training strategy as a training department. Whether this is annually or 5-year basis, have a training strategy that is aligned to the main corporate strategy. It will be very easy then to attribute the activities within the training strategy and how it is actually contributing to the overall corporate performance indicators. when this strategy is in place, the strategy actually defines then the matrices the training department will be using, some of the initiative the training department will have. Then the third issue is about having clear, measurable objectives. We can set objectives, but then their realisticness, is this realistic within this period, is questionable. So have measurable training objectives. And this is done at different levels. We set training objectives within the training strategy has training objectives, but each training, each module will have its own objective. By the end of this training, what do you expect the participants to be able to do? So then you're setting accountability for the trainer. You're also setting accountability for the person attending the training, that we expect you to do this by the end of this training. So the trainings, each module has its own objectives. You move further to the entire training purpose and objective, it has its own objective. The training department sets their own objectives, and this is aligned to the corporate objective. So that is the linear expectations that we have. So there we set accountability. So then the other aspect is collaborate, build collaborations and communications between those providing the trainings, those developing the content, staff who are actually attending these trainings, supervisors who will be measuring whether this is effective or not. So those multi-level collaborations is expected. Then the last aspect is about upskilling yourself in data, data analytics, collecting that data, methods of collecting that data, methods of analyzing it, and most importantly, how do we report it in a way that everybody can actually use the data that we collected? Is the report speaking to some of the problems that we initially set out to achieve? So thank you very much for listening to me for nearly 1 hour now.
Kate, that is great. I think you have caught the attention of every participant, because nobody objected in your presentation. Nobody's maybe raised a complaint, and that eloquency level is also quite impressive for us. Now, at this juncture, would we be able to ask members who have got questions to maybe could be able to raise your hand? Liz, already your hand is up. Raise a question. We can take maybe 3 questions at a time, and then get answers. Then we take the next batch. So Liz, go on.
Yes, thank you, Madam Catherine. Wish more of this on this subject is done more and more often. We work in a setup where we have the a political aspect of the employees. Sometimes there is a directive that this particular staff has this kind of training, of which you object as the HR, and at the end of it, there's no productivity improvement in this particular staff, because he or she went for a training that does not apply to their areas. That is a challenge that we have here. So I wanted to find out how best can you advise on a way forward in a political sector on how to deal with it. Then number 2, we also have projects that are training staff within our sector. At times we have this issue of employee turnout, where an employee has signed a contract with the company, was trained, and at the end of it, this employee maybe exit for another company. So the donor asks, why should I invest again on this kind of training when the employees on this which were trained has already left? So those are some of the gaps that some of us are going through in terms of training. So I would really like to get maybe some advice on how way forward on how we can deal with that.
So this is Elizabeth, isn't it?
Yeah. Sheila.
Can I do them one by one?
Or you want to go one by one?
Yeah, let me finish with Elizabeth so that I don't.
Then we go to Sheila, then
yes.
Abdul Karim. Yes, go on,
yes.
please.
So I'll start with Liz. Liz, those are important, really key points. And I think that those, because of those reasons, increasingly, how we keep our own data and proof of our work becomes important in a political circumstance, but also the example you have given about donors. So how we keep data becomes very important because Liz, yes, we have many participants attending trainings just because somebody said so and so attend trainings. I myself have had very sophisticated modules, and you ask yourself, okay, so when you're doing introductions, you're asking, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Because that is your first training needs analysis. Then when you link the role of this person and the training they have actually attended, you see completely they are not going to apply it. Why? Because it is politically charged who attends trainings. But then keeping that data and that information is important for you as an HR person. When it comes to proving why things are not working, why things are not working the way they are supposed to work, nobody ever wants to know whether the learners were forced or not. What they want to know is, what is the evidence? What evidence do you have that this is what I sent out, that participants should have this criteria? For you to attend this course, you must have this criteria and this criteria and this criteria. So, okay, you send this to supervisors and people then send their people. So then this person comes with this without this criteria. Then another level of documentation arrives. So and so has this link, this is their role, and this is what I sent out. So yours is to keep relevant information and documentation to support your own work and your own system, because those will always arise. But once the buck lies with you, how did you do your job at the end of the day? Do you have documents that support that you did yours well? So that's one. The other one about the donors is yes, the purpose of the training is to train them, train people and come back and apply this knowledge. But we can never stop people from moving to other institutions. So then we find how then, what other initiatives, apart from this expensive training that the donor does not want to support, how else can we deliver this process to upskill our staff without the budget component that the donor doesn't want to support? But holding people back after the training becomes increasingly hard because of other contractual obligations and issues and people's rights. I'm not sure if I've sufficiently covered you, Elizabeth, but we can move on to Sheila.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, this is just a concern in terms of where your employees need to be trained, but you can't, the company does not have the funds to maybe fund an external training, and the employees really need such trainings. What can you do? You can only do the internal and you can't do the external because of the funding.
So Sheila, I think with the increased technology, now, I find it has been actually cheaper to access knowledge than it was before, because we have, maybe when it comes, even in sophisticated skills level, you find, because of the technology and the level of knowledge out there right now, you can find a lot of free content and you tie them to your own needs if you're researching more on what your staff need. So I think it's also being innovative around what does the technology out there offer for you in free content that you can, that staff can then access. I think cheaply. I will not say that everybody will access data to then go online and read this, but increasingly there's more content that is free and we can access.
Okay, thank you for that. But in this situation, I'm talking about the trainings that the company need to be compliant with, that are a must.
Yes.
Not optional.
That's right. So the other issue would be proving the budget, proving the link between the budget and corporate deliverables. Why is this training important? What evidence do you have that this training is actually important? And I think that is the essence of our module today, because increasingly when budget cuts come, the very first thing people look at is the training budget. They cut that one because they can't see how this actually links to improvement. When it comes to customer satisfaction, maybe when you employ more salespeople and they're going out, they can see how that directly links to increments within the organization. But when it comes to training, we cannot clearly attribute the amount of budget we have been given with the applications back in the institutions. We cannot link it and argue for it appropriately. So I think increasingly how you link the value of your trainings to some of the issues arising why these people actually need the training, that justification. We'll need data, we'll need information for you then to prove it.
Okay, thank you.
Abdullah?
Yes, hello, good afternoon to everybody.
Good afternoon.
Yes, this is Abdul Karim from Migori County. Actually, I had a few sentiments I wanted to put across. And a colleague raised the issue of politics and training. And I think it's, I echo the same sentiments in where I work. I work in a livestock or agricultural sector. Actually, it's one of the farms in Migori County under the ministry. Though I'm not a civil servant, I work on contract. And the major challenges, like I've said, the issues that need improvement with regards to training. I've been here for a while, and I've seen when I ran my SWOT analysis and the daily things that I encounter here, you realize that there's so much that is not going like it's supposed to be. And as a HR, though I'm doing responsibilities that are not related to what I've studied, you feel it, but then again, you realize you're not in that capacity to make those changes or effect those changes, though they are affecting the employees and workers in general, including myself. Now, we are having an administration whereby it's the only technical member, like the other officers, or let's say the employees, the government employees are junior officers. I believe maybe from 4 to, gaining employment. So you realize there's so much information that still they need to know with regards to their line of duty. And me as an HR, you see that there is deficiency. There are things that need improvement. There's need to train. There's need to identify, and those training needs assessment and do the metrics and see where improvement can be done. But then you realize you're just an employee working on contract, and it becomes a hurdle, how to influence these things. Let's say with regards to your senior, not thing like you're undermining or like you seem to be a know-it-all kind of person. So the major question I really wanted to ask is, how do I come in to influence or make these changes without being either victimized or being in a situation whereby you feel you're contradicting your senior or something like that. Thank you.
Yes. I think this is one of those moments where we have to share information. How have others been navigating these political challenges when it comes to running the training processes? Any person who would have some response to Mr. Abdullah Karim? How have you been able to navigate this? Yes.
I think I've raised my hand.
Yes, please.
Can you allow me to speak?
Yes, yes.
Patricia, you are responding or also making a rejoinder?
I'm responding to both Liz and just an addition on what Liz asked, because I think we are in the same sector, and to what Abdul Karim has said.
All right.
On issues of political, I think as HRs, we also have to learn to lobby and have the trust of our leadership. Once you lobby and have the trust of your leadership, you will be able to explain to them, especially those issues of trade, where you are told, take this person for this training, and this person is not fit. It is good that you, when you have a good relationship with your boss, and you have lobbied and developed that trust, you are able to negotiate and tell your boss that I equally would wish this person to be trained, but as per our training program, as the trainer said, you are having this is not the right training. We can organize the right training for this person. On the and on the issue of staff leaving, in public service, there is the issue of bonding. Make sure that if a staff has been taken for training to handle a specific area, this staff is able to come back and also pass over the knowledge to other staff so that they can be able to understand what he or she did. And then if it's for a long period, ensure that you bond the officer so that on exit, the officer is able to pay for the knowledge that he got. That is the best practice in public service. If you're going for any training or more than 6 months, you are bonded. So you must come back and also utilize those skills. And I worked as a training officer at some time. And what I noted, like international bodies, especially even the NGOs like Dichavela and there was one Norwegian. You must also confirm, including it's called Chevening Scholarship. You must confirm that after training, you will come back and serve that company for a specific period. So those are the rules that we need to put in place. And I think to Abdul Salam, you just need to create that environment where your leader believes in you and trusts in you. And once you are able to do that, you are able to push your agenda without hurting any emotions. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. That's Madam Enane.
Yes.
Go on.
Yeah, I just want to add on what our council member has said. In terms of the bonding, you need to capture it in the training policy so that it is very clear. I cannot take you for training this week and next week you're leaving. And these are donor funds. So that if you're leaving, then at least there must be a way, a compensation in some way. Maybe you pay back because, I mean, that will be in the policy. It's very good to specify such a thing in the policy so that it is very clear and everybody knows that this training, especially when it is from an organization that is out, then they have to take responsibility. And then also in a public service communication, as I think I agree with the council member, that communicate for you to get that good rapport with the management and all that. You have to have a very good communication with them. And when you're communicating, don't communicate as though it is you who knows. Communicate in such a way that owner will go to them. So when you do that, you know that it's you who came up with the policy, you've communicated it with them. But when it is them who will take the honor and not really you, you're doing it on their behalf, then it is very easy to put some of these things in place, especially for our colleague from Migori. So the way that you communicate, the way that you talk with them, it is very, very, sometimes, let me just give an example. Probably one of your bosses gives you something to do, and you know that it is not the right thing to do. The right way to put it is not, sir, this is wrong. No, you can go to them and say, sir, could we try doing it this way to see what the results would be? So communication is very key in a public service. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Millie, you want to respond over the same or a different question, Madara Millie? Or maybe she's held up. I also wanted to add something on the same, though some of us have already repeated and talked of the very thing that I wanted to add. When it comes to the training which we are talking about, which can be short-term and long-term, some of the keywords that we can have on these issues are that we must have a very succinct training policy, and the element of bonding should be very clear so that when people join your institution, they are inducted and told or shown that this is what the policy in terms of training says when we sponsor you for a long-term training. If it is this period, between this period to this period, we bond you for this long. If you come back, you must come back and share the knowledge, skills, and work for us for this minimum period. So there must be that training bond that is purely signed before the person proceeds for training. For the short trainings, as was said, there could be other training that requires somebody to undertake because of the dynamics we are in. Those ones we cannot be able to kind of prevent a staff from going. And this is now calls on the leadership, because we have situations where there is somebody who wants a friend close to him within the setup to go for a training and not the actual person who handles the daily routine in that line. And you find that there's a mismatch. The person who I want to go does not actually handle these duties, but just because of friendship, I'm able to sponsor this person to go and train. The value addition after that is not realized at all. So it kind of starts with the leadership, and we must be able to be very keen on who we are going to train. And that element of perception, Madam Inane talked about communicating. You realize that not every boss, not every manager has got the right attitude towards the juniors. There are other people that do not even want to listen to their juniors when you want to communicate something differently as Madam proposes. So when we have those kind of persons, it becomes very difficult. Then when it comes to, there's a colleague of us who talked about people are not allowed to go for external trainings. This one begins with when we do the planning, it begins with our planning at the budget element. You must be able to anticipate, because of the dynamics I've talked about, you must be able to anticipate that likelihood, there are changes in system, there are changes in law, there are changes in blah, 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 blah. So you need people to get to go and acquire this knowledge that is being imparted externally. And there must be a provision in the budget. So the budget is a planning tool, and it becomes key. If it's not provided for and that need arises, it becomes difficult, because the challenge would be that you'll be told there's no provision in the budget in that line. So that should be the first planning tool that we must have in place. And as the HR specialist, that's the first thing that you're supposed to fight for. There must be an allocation to some extent. Thank you. We give Lois Omoga. That's my comment regarding the same. So we give Lois Omoga. Lois, go on.
Hello, how are you, everyone?
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to add something. I want to add something on the scholarships. I have a scenario of an employee who was taken for scholarships for 2 years in Switzerland. And when he came back, he went and joined another company. And we had a bonding agreement, but the bonding agreement was in the policy. So the employee argues that it was not brought to his attention. The part of the policy was not brought to their attention. So I just want to emphasize that the employees must be taken through the policy and they must sign the training policy where the bonding is. Apart from that, in the scholarship award letter, we are now ensuring that in the scholarship award letter, it is clearly put what you expect of the employee and what they expect of us when they come back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lois. I think yours has been perfect in answering all this, I think, to some extent. Documentation. Increasingly, teach yourself to use data to push for your arguments. Teach yourself to use your documentation and evidence to push for your arguments. Because, for instance, the employee who said, I didn't know this, but this is in the policy. So you argue, the first argument is, how come he was not aware? So we will be looking at, they start looking at the documents. They don't look at what you're saying vis-a-vis what they are saying. They're looking at what is the documentation process that shows that this guy was actually showed this thing. So she's now moving to a level forward and saying, the letter that we send you, we will put this. The induction that we give you, this will be part of your induction. So you see, the documentation is creating that evidence that this was done. When it comes to value of these people who are attending different trainings, why isn't this applicable? How many people attended this training who are relevant to applying this training? How many people actually attended this training and were from different diverse roles that are not linked to this training? That should be in your documentation. Let's document it first before you can actually communicate with the data and the documentation and evidence. So put your own house and your own documentation in order, have these policies, have these systems in place, have this, when it comes to participants lists and expectations, what do you expect from them? This is in documentation. When they come back, do they have understudies that they are coming right to and give this information to? Because they come back and then you have some understudies who they train and also give knowledge within so that, I mean, everybody will not leave. They will come back and teach some people. This should be in their policies. This should be in their letters. Those who are going to be taught should know in advance. So keep that documentation and that data in order first. Then now communicating to your bosses, to your level, you will be using this level, these reports, this data, this evidence to push for your points.
Thank you, Nerea. Nerea, go on and unmute yourself. Increase your volume. And unmute. Nerea, I don't know whether the others are getting you. I can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Maybe if she has earphones, she can unplug it. We see if it works.
Unplug the earphones. And unmute.
Yes.
Okay. No, you are muted again.
Yes, am I loud enough now?
Yes.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. I would wish to present a challenge that personally I am experiencing at my workplace with regards to the trainings and approvals of those who are bonded. The facility would expect that after I've gone for my training for 4 years, then the facility would be eyeing to have this officer back so that they're able to offer their services. But given the devolution, the county takes control of the employees, especially for the department that I am working for. So you will realize that quite a number will be out on training with an expectation that those skills would be back in the facility to fill the skill gap. But at the end of the day, the individuals are not brought back to the mother facility where they left from the training. So it's a big challenge. And as a HR, sometimes I may be challenged and not have the right information to relay to the management so that we are able to have our employees back to offer their services as earlier expected. So maybe just an advice on how best can we tackle this. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Nerea. We've had you clear.
Yes. Any other person with a comment or a question? Nerea, you can lower your hand. I believe you don't have a second question. You can now lower your hand. Any other person?
No.
Yes, I think yes, Nerea, I think I will begin by saying that you know, somebody mentioned that your training departments need the training policy. One of the processes of doing these policies and many other documentations that come is analyzing your own challenges within the training department. So that becomes one of your challenges, that yes, we do send for people for training, we do bond them, but when they come, they go to different other departments. So in terms of re-strategizing the training department, how do you tackle that one of those operating challenges within your environment? One is how do you have knowledge transfer, irrespective of who has gone to the knowledge, irrespective of the individual? How do you transfer their knowledges back to where you need it? Because what you need is the knowledge and the skill. And increasingly, we have seen that, yes, people will move to different places. That is one challenge in our own operating environment as training and human resource development. We cannot, even with the bond, they will pay and leave with the knowledge that you initially actually wanted. So knowledge management, keeping knowledge within the institution, becomes independent of the individuals. What other innovative means can we have for this knowledge transfer and keeping knowledge in itself, which is not reliant on human beings actually being there to have it?
Thank you so much, Kate. Probably would invite the last question if someone has. Millie, you have another one? Go on. If not, please lower your hand. I must thank you for attending. If there's no other question that is burning which someone wants to ask, there is something generally that I want to comment about in regard to the facilitation that Kate has taken us through. One thing in what we call contracting for employment, it is what we call voluntary. So in as much as we are talking about the bonding, it is upon the employer to find ways of what we call retention, staff retention. And two, dealing with human beings is very, very, very difficult. Knowing the wants and the needs of this person are key things that sometimes you cannot be able to satisfy as a person. And sometimes as HR, you can get blamed when the turnover is high, because somebody say, but how come the people you recruited actually don't even stay 2 years? They go on and we spend a lot in recruitment. So staff retention becomes a key issue, which holistically as an institution, we must be able to look into and do a lot of research in similar sectors find out your level and what other similar institutions do, which you don't, and what is it, because what kept talked about at the start of it, when you do what we call exit interviews, you get to know when they exit, what is it that is motivating them to leave, or what is it that is attracting them the other side. So when you do your own planning at the management level, those are the key things that you need to look at, that we are losing staff because of ABCD. What is it that we can be able to do so that we retain and can be able to train staff and be sure when we train them, they can be able to serve us for a longer period so that we get value out of that investment in training we have accorded them. So those are kind of intrinsics that if we don't look at as an institution holistically, it will be kind of a challenge year in, year out. And one of the ways that we can also be able to adopt so that we only train specifically people that are supposed to be trained is to have a separate committee that can be able to be vetting people that are supposed to attend the training. So at the end of the period, you can be able to ascertain how many people you have trained and were they trained in relevant areas. When you do an evaluation and an audit, did we actually train people in relevant areas given the circumstances that are prevailing now? How much have we spent? And is there any difference in the terms of training once we took this caliber of persons? So generally, there's a lot to be talked about. I believe when we get next time, we still can be able to invite Catherine and Coin your training. We'll be able to get another topic that is still having some kind of touch on training element, and we discuss more. Otherwise, I would ask Madam Enani to say vote of thanks. And finally, Madam Patricia, also to say a second vote of thanks and say a word of prayer. Madam Enani, if you are available.
Yes. Thank you very much. Good afternoon again, and thank you for giving me this opportunity just to really appreciate Madam Catherine for taking us through this very serious and technical. You see, people were very quiet. So it means there was a lot that we were learning because it was very technical. And even at the end of the presentation, you have seen the kind of questions that have come up because of the training. So thank you very much. You are very soft-spoken, and we are grateful that you took your time to prepare and to come and give us some training so that we are better equipped to handle our employees at the workplace. So on behalf of the Nyanza branch, thank you very, very much for taking time, and the team that organized at the branch level, the branch leadership, thank you very much for bringing to us a very knowledgeable person who was able to really take us through the training well. And finally, every member that was here, thank you for taking time. I know that we will earn 1 CBD, but even that notwithstanding, I want to really thank each one of you for presenting yourselves. For those who have asked questions, you have really made the training lively. And finally, let me wish you a very beautiful weekend, filled with a lot of training and new information on how we are supposed to handle training at the workplace. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Karen Enane. At this juncture, I would ask our council member, Madam Patricia, to also make a final comment and say a word of prayer, finally.
Okay, thank you so much, Ezra, for the opportunity. For me, I first apologize. I logged in late, I was on the road, but I can tell you I stopped on the road to listen to the session. So thank you so much, Catherine, for the presentation. Watu wa Nyawesa, I've also noted even some people from Nairobi joined us. Thank you so much. I think we are doing well and the numbers are increasing. And if we manage to join these forums, I think we are going to learn a lot. And every day is a learning day, and we are able to relate better in our workplace. It's also good we share the challenges that we face with each other so that we can be able to support each other to grow in the profession. Because I know nobody's an island. We are all learning, And Catherine, thank you so much for taking your time, for accepting our invite on a short notice, and being in a position to give us the best of yourself. We say thank you so much. And the members, thank you so much. Let's keep up in this mode. Let's keep on joining so that we are able to learn and also support each other.
I told him it is not fair. And again,
kindly, I know that voice. Oh, sorry, Catherine. So I think to that end, let's just close with a word of prayer and seek God's blessings for this session. And also as we exit, we thank God for everything. Let's pray. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. God our Father, we thank you for this presentation. We thank you that it's not by our choice that we were able to get Catherine as our presenter, but it's you who planned this before we knew about it. We ask that this is a learning process and we have been able to learn. We pray that the knowledge we have learned, we may be able to utilize it in the best way possible, and it enables us to serve your people. As we go through this session, dear Lord, we ask you to guide us. As we exit, we ask you to protect us and show us the way in our profession. We ask this through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
In the name of the Father,
Amen.
Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
Go in peace
Okay, go in peace, people.
and enjoy your
Thank you
weekend.
very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I will share the presentations on the wall in a few minutes so that everyone can be able to have a copy and refer to. God bless you.
God bless you all.